Here's the pH intro. So we have seen the simulation, we've seen videos. So hopefully some of this will sort of sound familiar. pH is a measurement of acidity or basicity. I think that's a word. We'll pretend it is anyway. The acid nature or basic nature of water, and basic is the opposite of acid. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a moment. So a pH 7 is neutral. For the purposes of this class and even the AP class, the pH 7 is neutral. The range only goes from 0 to 14 because of the nature of water. And most people probably don't want me to get into exactly why. So I'm going to skip exactly why right now. The inverse of pH is pOH. Notice when I say inverse, the numbers go opposite for pOH and pH. As one goes up, the other goes down. And in fact, you might notice that above, for the same solution, pH plus pOH equals, well, if we take it here, if your solution was sitting here, the pOH is 10, the pH is 4, and they add to 14. This adds to 14, that adds to 14, that sure adds to 14, that adds to 14. The pOH plus the pH equals 14. And I would underline or highlight that. If the pH is 3, pOH is 11. So here's our sample problems. And again, that's actually the same one, right? So we're going to do 14 minus this to get the other one. If you have pOH, then 14 minus that will get you that. And I would try a few of these on your calculator. 14 minus this gives you that. And you always get the other one. If you're using pOH, you get pH. If you're using pH, you get pOH. Because you can always take the one you know and subtract it out of 14, and you get the one you don't know. So I would just give this a read here. In a certain sense, pH is the unit. It's a little bit of a concept, but it's kind of the unit. I guess the concept really is acidity or basicity, and pH is a measurement. So maybe I need to modify this paragraph a little bit. pH is the unit. And by the way, it doesn't stand for power. And I just saw a web page yesterday that said it is, but it's not. I've seen somebody who did a really deep dive on that one. At this point, I need to go and teach some math that you may have not gotten to in your math class. For example, log of 10 means, this part becomes this 10 to the what power will get you 10. So the other way to say log is 10 to the something power will get you is equal to the number you're discussing. So what's in the box? What exponent lives in the box to turn 10 into 10? What is the box? The box is 1. So log of 10 is 1, because when we say log, we're basically asking, what's the exponent that you stick on 10 to get the number we're talking about there? So let's do another one. Log of 100 means, this part means 10 to the what power will get you this number. And then sometimes kids shout out 10, but that's 10 times 10. We're using the power of the exponent. So what's in the box? What's the exponent on 10? That will get you 100. The box is 2. The exponent on 10 that will get you 100 is 2. So log of 100 is 2. So what's log of 1,000? Take a moment and think it out. This means 10 to the something power. And this means it's equal to 1,000. What's the exponent you got to stick on 10 to get 1,000? The box is 3. What's in the box? 3 is in the box. So log of 1,000 is 3. So when we ask pH, it turns out what we're really getting is what's in the box. So what is pH mathematically? It's the exponent on 10. except that many, many times it's a decimal number. So we get stuff like 3.86924 kind of stuff, and we'll just round that off a bit. The exponent in the box does not have to be a whole number, an integer. It can be a decimal fraction. A decimal is a fraction. So it can be a decimal number. And most of the time when we do these, we do get a decimal number. So log of 100 is 10 to the what power will get you 100. What is x? The exponent on 10 here to get that is 2, so log of 100 is 2. And as we said, we're asking the same thing. Log means 10 to the what power will get you 1,000. 10 to the what power will get you 1,000. What's the x? What's the power? What's the exponent? 3. That's going to come up. I would highlight this part right here. Big time. Notice the big arrow I drew? pH is the negative, don't forget the negative, of the operation of log of the H plus molarity. And the brackets means molarity. That's another piece of new information, but the brackets is molarity. Sometimes they write a capital M, sometimes they just put brackets. Honestly, I'm not sure why brackets is so much better. Capital M is easier to write and type, I think, but you see a lot of brackets, so I got to teach the brackets. Otherwise, I'm not doing you a favor for college class because they probably do a lot of brackets. And molarity is moles per liter, which is what we covered previously. So we take the log of the molarity, whatever number this is told to us, or we figure out, and then reverse the sign because we take the log of it, except pH is the negative of that answer. So if your calculator said minus 4.5, we would say, no, it's plus 4.5. You take the negative of that. And another note I would write on the side here somewhere is pH and pOH are positive numbers. pH and pOH are positive numbers. So we can then take pH very easily for numbers that are 1 times 10 to the something. We know the exponent, right? Needed to make 10 to the y. So remember, log means 10 to the what power will get you, and then get me what? 10 to the y. What exponent do you have to stick on 10? That's what this says, to get 10 to the y. Well, it's y exponent to get 10 to the y. Because there's not a number in front to complicate this. It's just this. What exponent do you have to stick on 10? This is asking to get 10 to the y. Well, I have to stick y on 10 to get 10 to the y. So kind of a trick question. What would the pH be here? Just to try to get some people good on the concept. We said pH is the negative of that log answer. Remember, it's the negative of the log answer. So if that's the log answer, then the pH here will be negative y. For 6, I'm a little bit stumped via video, but I need you to get a calculator of some kind, even if it's on the phone or something. Now, if you're in real class, though, you can't use phone on a test. So you need a real calculator, a real, regular calculator, not the one on the phone. I can do calculator tutoring. That's fine. I do it every year. But I don't know quite how to tell you to use your calculator because there are a number of ways, unfortunately. So find the log button and the negative sign, not the subtraction sign, the negative sign, not the subtraction sign. And see if you can get 3 times 10 to the minus 5, that's what this is, 3 times 10 to the 5, to turn into something like 4.52 and a bunch of other numbers. It'll say, I don't remember, but something that's basically this. If you can't figure it out, email me or bring your calculator in and we'll figure it out. Another point is if you use the molarity of OH minus, you get POH. So there are 2 ways to get POH. We could use the molarity of OH minus and get POH. Or, remember, we said you could subtract out. if this is 2, what's POH? It's 14 minus 2, isn't it? POH is 12. So there are 2 ways to get these. That's also true for pH. So I would suggest very much get a calculator. Try it here. Now, 1 times doesn't really help. Multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything. So let's just count this as 10 to the minus 5. And we're going to take the negative of the log of the molarity number. What's the molarity number? 10 to the minus 5. What does log mean? What exponent do you have to stick on 10 to get whatever they just said? Well, so we get this. 10 to the what power will get you 10 to the minus 5. What's x? X is minus 5, right? But pH is the negative of that answer you just said, because we don't like pH and POH having negative numbers, because most people get confused by negative numbers. And then we get a lot of dead fish and terrible swimming pools and stuff. Swimming pools that'll like tear your eyes out and stuff. So we're going to give people positive numbers. So I know that x is negative 5. I know. However, we are going to say that we're not going to hand people negative numbers, and we're going to call it the negative of that number for pH. So pH is positive 5. And I will show you on my calculator how I type this in. So for C here, I'm going to take negative, and that's not my subtraction sign. That's not the subtraction sign. That's negative of the log of 2.5. And now on my calculator, this is the times 10 to the power of a button. You need to find yours. It might say this. It might say x10, x as an exponent. It might say 2 capital E's. If you can't figure it out, show it to me and I'll figure it out for you eventually, at least. So I'm going to use that button, and that puts my little E here, and that means times 10 to the power of, and my power on 10 here is negative 2. I know that's a little hard to see. Negative 2. I'm talking about 7C. 7C. And at that point, I'm going to hit equals, and I get 1.60. And then POH, we said, is 14 minus the one that you already have. The other one is 14 minus the one you have. The other one is 14 minus the one that you have. So then 14 minus this will get you that. Also, I will point out that some calculators have a neat trick here, and they can do 14 minus, and then I love this answer button, the previous answer. So I don't have to type it in again. I can just say, you know that previous number? And it says, oh yeah, I'm going to do 14 minus the previous answer. And I got basically 12.40. I would try the rest of these. See if you agree with those answers. If you think I got something wrong, you can email me. Sometimes I make a mistake. Now, previously I said that pH is really the exponent on 10. When we take log, we're solving for the exponent. Remember, I kept saying what's in the box, and the box is an exponent. So when we have pH, what we have is the exponent on 10. Except remember, we changed the sign. We found the exponent on 10 with the calculator, except then we also changed the sign when we got it. So if we want to run this backwards, what we're going to do is remember that pH is the exponent on 10, except the sign is wrong. And you have to change it first, or you end up with the wrong answer. So if I want to generate the molarity from the pH that they told me, I'm going to remember that this is the exponent on 10, except the sign is wrong. So I'm going to use negative 3.4 as the exponent on 10. And I'll show you here. There's a couple ways to do it. I can say 10 to the power of negative 3.4. And I use the negative sign and not the subtraction sign. And that gives me back the molarity, and I run that math backward. 3.98. And here's the thing that I forget sometimes, times 10 to the negative 4. Now, your calculator may say it differently, may put it in a different spot. And that is easy to forget, and we've all done it. But you can't skip this part or your number is really, really, really different. Kind of the difference between 1 and 1,000. Well, they both have a 1 in it. Yeah, but they're not the same number, are they? So don't forget the times 10 to the power of part in your answer. And if you don't remember scientific notation, then ask me for a tutorial. And so that number that I got, and I rounded it off here, is the molarity. So instead of using the molarity and getting pH, I used the pH and I got molarity. Another way we could do this is to use the log function. On my calculator, it's shift, because then it gives me the thing above log. Here we go, 10 to the x. I know it doesn't look like it, but that means 10 to the power of. So then I can put negative 3.4. I don't think it took the function. There we go. 10 to the power of, and I know it doesn't look like a power, an exponent, but it is negative 3.4. And I got the same answer. For you more mathy types, that's taking the inverse log. And if you take the inverse of the function, the math runs backwards. And the thing that used to be the information is now the answer. The molarity used to be the information, and now it's the answer. I'll do one more. I'll do C here. So I'm going to remember that pH is the exponent on 10, except the sign is wrong. So 10 to the power of negative. Notice I did not use the subtraction sign. I used the negative sign. 10.2. 6.3 times 10 to the minus 11. Or I might do shift log inverse log second log negative 10.2. And I get the same answer. Try the rest of them then.